Welcome, one and all. This is Recovery Dharma. My name is Julia. I'm one of the facilitators in the Spokane Sangha. And today I'd like to begin our practice with a sentiment of metta, loving kindness. And I have this bowl that has all of these hand painted pieces. Some of them I have painted, other people have painted and sent to me. Ooh, this is a good one. This is painted by our friend Sean C. And for anyone out there, if you have any bright ideas, if you're a painter and you're like, ooh, I'm going to send Julia a painting, just be forewarned that I'll chop it up into tiny little pieces like this, and I write sentiments of metta on the back. This one reads, "May the stories drop with ease." May the stories drop with ease. And maybe you're wondering, well, what stories are those? And I think what I'd like to do and how I'd like to encourage you to hold your own minds and hearts with this particular sentiment is to focus your attention on your stories. And maybe even your habit energy of stories. Stories related to your good qualities and your negative qualities and your neutral qualities. Stories related to your vanity. Today I went to the eye doctor and I had to take my hat off, and suddenly I had this flush of this weird vanity, like, oh, am I still going to be cute without my hat on? I'm like, what am I thinking about? This guy's checking me for glaucoma. But there it is. There's a story. May it drop with ease. Vanity. The stories we harbor that arise sort of involuntarily about the little subtle judgments we concoct. Today, and in honor of February, where we have been exploring the four limitless qualities in Buddhism, and we're leaning toward the end of this practice, and so we're going to be looking at equanimity. And this is one's capacity to hold in one's own mind and heart the positive, the negative, the neutral, to hold it all, and to hold it in such a way that we're just holding it. We're not allowing ourselves to get so gripped by it that we're being drawn in one direction or another. We're simply staying put, holding our own. On Wednesdays, we've been exploring the writing of Shantideva, an 8th century monk who gave the students of this particular Buddhist university a single Dharma teaching that he created. And there's a wonderful legend about Shantideva. But his particular roadmap, his particular guidance for how to live a virtuous life, how to own his own heart and mind, how to work with his own intrusive thoughts, his own negative feelings, and so forth, has become this wonderful book, and it's been interpreted a number of times. The one that we're using is The Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life. And a bodhisattva really, the best way to think about it, I think, is a person who has made an intentional aspiration to reduce suffering in the world. That's it. As if that's it. Such a huge aspiration, right? And so we begin with ourselves. When we heal ourselves, we heal the world. And so today, we're just going to enter back into the spirit of Bodhisattvas and Shantideva's work. And I'd like to share with you one of my favorite quotes of his. And then next week we'll start on chapter 2, which is all about purifying negativity. And another way of looking at that language, purifying negativity, for me is like, ugh, it sounds a little holy and saintly, and I'm not particularly interested in that language. So for me, it's about working with negativity. It's about transforming negativity. It's really about being with those things about me that I find regrettable, unnoble, prickly, smelly, all those things. And we'll start that next week. So today, our contemplation and our meditation is this particular quote. And I'd like you to wrap it around the sentiment of loving kindness I shared with you today. May the stories drop with ease. So let's just take a moment before I read this quote and create a little space in the mind and in the heart for any stories that might be trailing you today like Pigpen's little dirt cloud. Little wiggly, puffy stories. And maybe if in this pause, maybe we can put them down for a moment. Literally allow the dust in the mind to settle. And I'm not talking about just the negative, what you judge to be the negative stories, any story. The job well done you did today, the good deed you did, the stuff you got to do later on, the worries about your recovery you may be having. This is an invitation to imagine those thoughts, those stories, to find gravity, settle into the earth in a very gentle way, almost like a seed being planted. And notice the space that you've just created. The ease, the calm, the openness. Shantideva's legacy is alive because of this wisdom he was poetically able to convey. He said, "All the joy in the world has come through wishing happiness for others. All the misery in the world has come through wanting pleasure for oneself. I'll read it again. All the joy in the world has come through wishing happiness for others. All the misery in the world has come through wanting pleasure for oneself. I think this is very true and not the whole truth. If I can be so bold to say that. And what helps my mind work with this idea is to imagine an old wagon wheel. And in the center of that wagon wheel is, of course, me. And so imagine you as the center of your own wagon wheel and the many spokes connected to the outer rim. And so Shantideva is saying that all of the joy in the world is because my attention is focused outward and looking at others, all of those channels, all of that energy in each of those spokes, and the happiness going through each of those spokes. And that is absolutely true. And then all of the misery is me still at the center, but expecting the energy from each of those spokes to make me happy. So I'm seeking the pleasure. I'm seeking the validation from out there coming in toward me. And that is also absolutely true. And the truth is, this is in motion. This is constantly moving. And it's both. Because the reality is that most of us need encouragement. We need external validation once in a while. It keeps us going. It keeps our spirits up. It helps nurture our resilience. That's a very necessary thing. Praise is good. It's when we become dependent upon it. It's when we forget that the flow of energy is a two-way street, where if I'm constantly looking for validation and praise and ways that I'm okay, and I forget to praise others, to validate others, to see others, that's when we get into trouble. So this is a balancing act, and it's in motion based on the conditions of our lives. And the reason why I bring it forward is because in the West we have this habit energy of putting everything in black and white terms. So if I were to follow Shantideva's encouragement here, the focus is always external. I just need to be forever wishing for people's happiness. Well, I'm a human being, and I too seek happiness. And if I'm constantly giving, wishing outward, how am I replenishing that well for myself? Sometimes I don't have the reserves and I need someone to encourage me, to nurture me. And the trick of that is to receive it. I was talking to my daughter about this the other day. It's one thing to be receptive to praise or criticism for that matter. But let's just talk about praise, because compliments are really difficult for a lot of people to receive or help. So you might be open to receiving it, you might be receptive, but to actually let it in, to let in the praise enough to restore you, to refresh you, to transform you, that's the trick. And it's a practice, and we won't need it forever, but as we're building our own reserves, as we're building our own resilience, we need that, and we need to trust it in others. And we also are being asked to become more trustworthy so that what we give to the world is viable, virtuous, and true. All the joy in the world comes from wishing others to be happy, and all the misery in the world comes from seeking my own pleasure. The invitation, friends, is to see how this two-way street flows in you and to simply work with it. And the way its momentum is in you is going to be different than me and anyone else. This is your life, your circumstances, your karma, your conditions. So the more familiar you are with yourself, the more effective you are and you will become. How do you wish for another's happiness? And how do you receive the wishes from others? Friends, we'll conclude our practice today with an instrument of peace that you hear me talk about all the time, which is, would you look at that? And we'll put it in the context of a phrase that's such a great indicator. It's almost like a red light or a flashing light, warning light indicator. And in words, it sounds like this. Well, what about me? And any time that arises in your mind, what about me? Just pause a moment, just a moment. Would you look at that? And then you can answer it. What about me? And just shifting that tone. It's incredible to play with this because the tone is enough to make a whopping difference. So it's initially it sounds like, what about me? To, oh, what about me? Hear the difference? So this is a wonderful way to play with. Are you focused on yourself in the center? And you don't have to judge that as right or wrong. It just may be what's happening. But how are you going to work with that focus? If your focus is yourself, are you focusing on yourself to restore and replenish your own well-being so that you can extend it out to others? Or are you so focused on yourself as a hungry ghost that will never be satisfied? You get to determine that. That's the practice. Alrighty, let's go ahead and end our practice then today with a dedication of merit. You know, one of the things that I really appreciate about the Buddhist practice, really captured it so beautifully today, as well as just maybe the woe is me isn't so bad. Maybe the fixation on coveting other people's stuff and all of that arising, maybe I don't have to treat that as a bad thing. Maybe I can just treat it as a thing. Oh, that's what's arising for me. Look at that. This is what's arising for me. Look at that. This is what's arising for me. Look at that. And I think during these days of tumult and confusion, this is a really masterful invitation to play with, to play with. So I'd like to invite us to a noble posture. Soft belly, strong back. Yesterday and on Tuesday, it was yesterday, last night's talk was Thich Nhat Hanh's mantra, darling, I see that you are here and I am so happy. For his equanimity practice, the mantra is, darling, I am suffering. Please help. So imagine if we're feeling woe come to visit and we were to go to someone and say, I could use some encouragement. I could use some nurturance. I need you to see something in me that I'm not able to see myself. Imagine having the confidence and the courage to be able to say that, and imagine in doing so you bestow someone with that level of trust. And now imagine being on the receiving end of someone's trust. How would you respond? Maybe you would respond with, "Thank you for asking, and I see that you are here, and your presence makes me so happy." This is a practice, friends, and we invite it to be perfect as it is. Thank you for bringing yourselves here, your stories, your minds, your hearts. You inspire this whole community and then some. Have a great day. We'll see you next time. Namaste.